Hello, this is Black Country Blokes chewing the fat.
Listen.
I've been hearing a lot lately about men don't talk, but in my experience, men do talk, just people aren't listening. So it's going to be me and a group of blokes discussing our struggles and victories through life. Warning, there may be some bad language, so apologies to all the moms, especially my own. Let's get going.
Listen.
This is the Black Country Blokes chewing the fat with me, Kev Dillon, Lee Cadman, and our very special guest today is Debbie Slater. Now, Debbie works for Black Country Women's Aid, who do remarkable work. And I've been trying to get Debbie on for the last year, and it's been, different things popping up. But I've wanted to come on today to talk about the Black Country Women's Aid. And the Black Country Women's Aid doesn't only work with women, it works with men, women, old and young. So I'm going to pass you over to Debbie so she can just explain a bit what they do. So Debbie, could you tell us a bit about the Black Country Women's Aid, please?
Certainly, Kevin, be delighted to. And I've got to say that intro was lovely. I love the music and everything. Black Country Women's Aid, our charity, has been going 31 years now. Started up in West Bromwich by just a few local women who realised there was, nothing there for women to help them if they were suffering domestic violence, sexual abuse, any form of abuse, really. So they started up a very small safe house. And unfortunately, because the problem is just growing and getting worse and worse, we now actually are a regional charity and we have 6 refuges. Refuge is more than just a refuge, because when a woman finally picks up the phone and dials, or she is at her total end, she's that frightened and she just can't handle it anymore. And I don't mind saying, and I'm proud to say that, I'll share with you that I went through domestic abuse myself 25 years ago. And part of tonight is to let other people know out there, women and young people and men, to come forward, and you're going to get the best of health, and we can help, and we can really promise that. So to give you an idea, the 6 refuges that we have, currently we've got 65 women in there. We have 54 children. We have newborn babies. We have pregnant mums. And when a woman, if I take you from the journey, so you ring that number or text us or WhatsApp us or message us and you say, you can't continue anymore, from that moment on, you'll be believed. Everything is confidential. And you'll have your own support worker from the time you go into refuge. Not everybody needs refuge. Sometimes we can keep the perpetrators away just by different things we can do with the police and the courts, issuing different orders and things. We do help men as well. We don't put men into refuge because obviously we can't mix. But if a man comes to us with exactly the same problem, they will get exactly the same help. They may have to go and stay in a hotel, or we'll find somewhere, but we'll still create the exit plan so that they can get away, and then we will go on to support them in every other way, the same as we do women. I mean, men aren't really looked after, and a lot of men are really too ashamed to even say, they're going through, especially domestic violence with their partner. And I just want to say as well, for all the men that are listening, although we always talk about men doing all these terrible violence and everything to women, the perpetrator is not always the man. And it can be their own sister, your brother, the granddad, the next door neighbour. It could be a sports club that your child attends. It can be really anybody and from any level in society. A lot of people say, is it all like, women, from council estates and this, that, and that is so wrong. We have women from all walks of life, of all intelligence. And it's a very, very horrible experience to go through. And the fear that I experienced 26 years ago, it's something that I'll never, ever forget. But once you come to somewhere like Black Country Women's Aid, we can get you through. We'll work through that trauma. We have specialist therapists that will sit down and work out all of these problems, not only with the woman or the man, but with the children as well. Because what we do find as well is sometimes the children will start copying the perpetrator. So if it is their stepdad who's hurting them, they will then start to think that's normal and start doing this to the mum. So sometimes in refuge, children will spit at their mum, pull their hair, call them all sorts of names. So we work with the parents and the child as well to rebuild that relationship too.
I imagine that's very common, Debbie, because that old saying, "Monkey see, monkey do," and
Yes.
you can only learn something if you've been taught it. And it's easy to
Yeah.
say, well, we should all be teaching our children to respect women, but if you haven't been taught that lesson, how are you ever
Yes.
going to teach it? So we've got to be doing our own parts as parents, coaches, teachers to educate. You don't be cruel to anyone, be it man, woman, or child, and set a good
Exactly.
example.
Yeah. And also the other thing to remember is abuse is not always violence. It's not always, the punch. It could be financial, where you're being fully controlled. They won't allow you to have your own money, any money that comes into the house, even though you might be working full time, that money is going to him and he decides how it's spent. And it could be that a woman then might have to go out and actually steal food for her children to eat, or steal clothes, or steal a new uniform for school. So that's where another service of ours comes in, and it's called our Women's Justice Service. So anybody who's gone through that, so say if you've gone out, also women could have hit the drink in order to be able to cope with this, every night. So if I went out and stole a bottle of vodka and, got arrested, instead of going down the lines of, going down to the police station or appearing in court and getting a fine, what we do is, if you agree to come on a course with us for 13 weeks, that is all squashed, and we then find out how we can really help that woman to overcome everything that she's facing. So that's financial abuse, but it comes in many different forms. We've got things like forced marriage. We look after women who have had the terrible experience of going through FGM, the female genital mutilation. So many different areas, but Black Country Women's Aid, because we've grown and grown and grown, we've developed all the other services so we can have a more of a holistic approach and really help the families through everything that they need. So we have our children's team, and our children's team work with children one-to-one, and they also go and visit them in school as well. And with this close contact, children will open up to us. And then if we find out that the abuse has been quite severe and that they might need therapy, we sort that out for them as well. Because if you've gone through a terrible trauma and you've tried to, get in with a GP, you've got to wait forever to be seen and get appointments. With Black Country Women's Aid, we like to see our people as soon as we can, because trauma doesn't wait for anybody. And with children, they usually go one of two ways. They can either go really angry and start, hitting other kids at school, causing trouble, being nasty to other people, or they go within themselves, withdrawn, and maybe start self-harming, things like that. So our therapists and our children's team are play a major role at Black Country Women's Aid, and we also run programs in school where we can teach children from a very early age about their rights, if you like, and especially when they're moving from primary school into secondary, when they might start getting boyfriends, as we do. And then, it's teaching them little things like, that's your mobile phone, and it isn't okay that your boyfriend takes it off you, reads all your messages, or stops you going out with your friends. So we are trying, and it's the only way we're going to do it, really, is to teach our children what is right and what is wrong, really.
With the technology side of it, Deb, I was only having a conversation with one of my friends earlier, saying about mobile phones and internet and taking rude pictures of yourself, or sexting and all the, and it's such a foreign world to someone like myself. But they forget it isn't just going to your boy. It's not just going to your boyfriend. Once that photo is taken, it can be anywhere, and that photo can stay with you for the rest of your life.
Exactly, and that is a terrible form of abuse, because can you imagine something going out? And I mean, in a lot of cases, the women that have come forward to us, because we also offer a stalking support service, which stalking is on the increase as well, sadly. And in a lot of cases, they are filmed. They might be making love, or they might be having a shower, and then all of a sudden it's put out to the whole world, and you just want to crawl under your stone and die. So it really is awful. But I was going to give you some figures just for our area, and just to give you an overview of the amount of calls and the numbers of people that we're dealing with. So last year we supported 9,496 adults. So only 10% of them were men. 6,148 we supported within the community. Like I said, not everybody goes to refuge. We can put packages together where we can keep the perpetrator away, but still give that woman and that family everything that they need to get by. So 290, last year we had 290 women in refuge, and with the women, there were 128 children. We had 607 women that we had to work with that were being stalked. And stalking is really a very serious crime, and it can be very, very dangerous at that stage. And I remember once going to one of our refuges, and there was a single girl in there, and it's not very often that you have a single girl, but she was an air hostess, loved her job, everything, fell in love, as you do. She let this partner move in with her, thought everything was great. 6 months down the line, he's, behaving psychotic, and she can't cope. She hasn't told her family, and she hasn't told any of her work colleagues because she literally is terrified. And in the end, she gave her job up and she came to refuge. And for the first 2 weeks, all she did was slept. She didn't want to mix with other people. So, stalking is a really terrible thing, and this is why we work with local businesses as well. We run a lot of training courses so that it's corporate social responsibility for that business to look after their staff. And with one in four women being affected, they need to be able to identify if it's happening to one of their staff, and then how to approach it and how to help the woman.
1 in 4, Debbie. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Do you think it's...
I'm sorry, Kevin. It's 1 in 3 now. Sorry.
I mean, that's even worse, isn't it? But do you think because of the TikToks, the Facebooks, all the social media, do you think that's made it easier to find someone and stalk them?
Well, I suppose it is. I think all this, internet and being able to do these things, it really does affect them, because they go on then as well and pretend that they're somebody else. They create, pretend profiles, but they follow them to work. They're outside their workplace. They seem to know everywhere where they're going. And another thing is, Kev, we had a talk from cyber and security specialists, and on eBay you can literally buy this little tiny box. It's only about that big. It's about £45. You can put it anywhere in your house and you can hear everything. And you can also download a piece of software to your wife or your girlfriend's phone, or the other way around, and it will then let you know everything she's saying. How embarrassing is that, to think, you can't even share a conversation. So if I rang up my mum and I was like, oh, Mum, this has happened, and, he's hearing that. So it is, you're right. It's like the advancement thing is making things worse. But domestic violence, I think, sexual abuse and rape has always gone on. And another really dreadful figure, last year, and don't forget this is just in Black Country, and these are the children that we know about, we had 717 children that we cared for that had gone through rape, violence and exploitation. And that is just the saddest, horriblest thing.
All these figures, I mean, it's quite scary, really, and that's just in a small area. Let's be honest, we're not, it's not a massive area. And I suppose but our regular listeners are going, well, we're a men's mental health group. Why have we got Debbie on from Black Country Women's Aid?
Yeah.
And one of the reasons is, on our point of view, is that we've got to change this, because our children, I've got a daughter myself who's in secondary school, and those figures just terrify me. I've got a son who's at 8, and I'm 9, and we've got to bring him up to realise that's all wrong. The only way we can do that is by talking about it, and that's men as well. Men have got to talk about this.
Well, the whole thing is, it's like, what can women do? How can we keep ourselves safer? We can't keep looking at the women and saying, how are we going to make ourselves safe? Okay, we can go to, Kung Fu or karate and try and learn skills. Always be aware of where you are. Always trust your hunch as well. I personally remember building a den when I was about 11. In those days, you sort of still done things like that. We didn't have all this, me and my friends were out building this den, and all of a sudden this man's come over and, showed his other bits. And we were absolutely terrified, And then another time, but that's it about your gut feeling. I also went to call for a friend one night after school. It was in a real high-rise tower block. And I got to the lift door, and then this man come and stood by me. And I just had this terrible gut feeling, something's going to happen. And when the lift opened, I did actually get into the lift with him, even though I knew I had a gut feeling. Leave, go back out the front doors and don't go in the lift. And yet still I thought, another thing in my mind was saying, you'll be all right, don't be silly. And I went up in the lift with him, and he showed his private parts again. So I think one way that women can protect themselves is to always believe that hunch or that gut feeling you get. But mainly we've got to look at, I've got 2 sons, and, I brought them sort of more or less on my own. So they do have great respect for women. And I think you have got to instill into your children, you don't speak to your mother like that. You don't do that to your sister. And, they've got to understand, young lads that, women need to be respected. They need to be respected. And violence is not good for anybody. But I do think as well, with all these sex on the internet and things, and I think that, when kids are getting access to it, whichever way they do, girls and boys, they see these like crazy scenes of, sexual violence, and they think that's normal then. Yeah. They can go and practice that. So, it is a lot to do with the way we live. But I think it has to be a two-way thing. It's how we bring our kids up, isn't it, as well? So
everyone deserves to be able to walk the street without being in fear, and that's everyone. There's no substitutes for that. Everyone deserves to be able to go out at any time they choose to, and walk without fear.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when mine were growing up, and when they start wanting to go to nightclubs when they're not really old enough and things like that. But going to a disco, say for 16-year-olds or whatever. And I was that frightened, and I think because of my own experiences, and I could see what might happen, I used to drop them off and pick them up. And even though they moaned, we don't want you to pick us up, and I was that frightened that I had to do that.
Yeah. And I think, as you just said there, Debbie, like just jumping back in, like saying, should women have to learn kung fu or boxing? I teach boxing. It petrifies me. It would sadden me if any of my children, my men, women, have to go and use it down the street just so they feel safe to walk down the road. We shouldn't have to feel like that in the UK in 2021, where we've got more cameras than we've got bloody bus stops. Yeah. You should feel safe walking down the road.
But I wouldn't feel safe. I wouldn't dream of going walking a street, in any street, in the dark on my own. Maybe that is because of, what happened years ago, but I don't think it is. I generally think, you don't know what's going to happen to you. And I certainly put my daughter in for karate, as soon as she was old enough. So at least she has got knowledge of, a little bit of how to protect herself. And I mean, that comes on to another subject, which is, when these children start vanishing off the streets, where are these children going? And another service that we provide is support for survivors of modern day slavery and human trafficking. And you won't believe the amount of people that we support in the Black country through this. I'll give you the exact figure for last year. Last year, we supported 346 survivors of modern day slavery. And that's
survivors.
Yes, and that's grown. So we do have a special refuge for women that have been trafficked. And we do also, sometimes a member of our staff will go out on a police raid when they go and say, do raid some massage parlour in the mailbox in town. And they're all over the place, these massage parlours, and they're full of women that have been trafficked into this country and girls from our area that have been forced to work as prostitutes. And they're absolutely terrified. So our member of staff will go with the police on the raid, and they are victims. They haven't done anything wrong. So we've been extremely lucky in that an anonymous donor gave money to one of the big trusts, and they've awarded us the money, and we've built an extension onto our refuge so that when these poor girls and men, we do a lot with men, but we bring them to refuge, then they can have a shower, they can put some new, a pair of leggings on, a t-shirt, and we can try and help them and look after them, because they're so terrified that the trafficker, will get them. They get all these threats: we'll burn down your family's houses, we'll do this, we'll do that. And I know currently we support over 200 males that have been that we've not found, but that have come across our path, because we work very much with the Salvation Army on this. So currently we're supporting 200 males that have had the most awful, terrible lives, slavery, a lot of them from when they were children, and they've been sold by their own families into, and they've ended up here, and local people here as well, and they're slaves in rich people's homes. It's just unbelievable. It really is.
It is, isn't it? In the UK, you wouldn't believe that was possible, would you, nowadays?
No. And that particular service is growing and growing. You see it all the time on the news about, you see these people being trafficked in and everything. And, if you heard the stories, the real life stories, and they're on our website if anybody wants to have a look. Obviously, we change names and everything, but it gives you the real story of how they got here and what's happened to them. And, the young males that live in safe houses, they seem to be the most vulnerable, really. And they've gone through life of being raped or slaved and, just treated like, I wouldn't say an animal because it's worse, and they get about £37 a week to live off. It really is a very sad world sometimes when you look at it.
Could I go back to a point, Deb, that you said before, like with the stalking and the rapes and everything? Do you find a lot of it? Because I'm just asking a question here, because we feel in danger to walk down the road on our own. Was it true? A lot of the stalkers and the groomers already know the person who's going to do it to you.
Yeah, I think they do. In most cases, they do. Obviously, you will have stalkers that, just took a liking to you. They might have seen you on Facebook and they're trying to connect with you with pretend images. Then they find out where you live or where you work. Because, we're so open, aren't we, with our information on Facebook. Where do you work? They've only got to go and stand outside your workplace. And I've sat in on the stalking groups with the women, and they're literally frightened of their own shadows. It's a horrible, horrible thing to go through. Every time your phone rings, you're looking out the window all of the time. And then they just keep moving, but the stalkers just keep following. So in the end, that doesn't work either. But our staff are absolutely brilliant. And although we've got all these terrible things we're talking about, rape, assault, all violence, terrible stuff. But honestly, and I think as well, Kev, we run men's groups, and the good news is, because we have to keep getting funding all the time, the good news is that our men's groups are starting up again. I think it's in June, and this is helping men who have been through childhood sexual abuse, who, for whatever reason, have never been able to disclose it. They feel so ashamed, embarrassed. They sometimes wait till the perpetrator, whoever's done it to them, has died, because they don't want to upset their mums or their aunties or, but that's good news. We've got the funding, so that will be starting again. And anybody listening tonight, go on, Kev.
I said a sad thing about that, Deb. I mean, I won't mention names, but it's amazing through doing this and doing other things, how many poor buggers it's happened to. And they've lived with it for 20, 30, 40, 50, how many years? I remember talking to one of them, and I said, how did you get the strength? He said, Kev, it wasn't having the strength to come out with it. I couldn't live with it anymore. I either had to get it off my chest or I was going to end my life. And I'd hate for anyone who's listening to this to feel like that, because I'm not taking away from your pain. I'd never do that. But you're not alone. This has happened to, unfortunately, so many people. So please reach out and get the help, because your life is worth it.
Just pick up the phone, and I know, like they say, it's Black Country Women's Aid, and I think it's like all women, and it is women, but we have specialist people there to help you. And at our AGM, not last year because of the pandemic, but the year before, it's only one day in a year when we can get all of our staff, together, which is really lovely. And we actually had a man who'd attended our course, and he stood up in front of all of us women. He made us cry, actually. And he said, he couldn't believe how great he felt after, and how he was thinking, I'm not going to a women's aid, and now, and when he spoke about his experience and how he could now look at it with a fresh pair of eyes, and he did feel healed, and he can get on with his life and that. So, for any woman or any man who's listening in tonight, the hardest part is picking up the phone and asking for help. But we can promise you we will be there for you, and we answer day and night. 0121 553 0090. You can ring that anytime you like, and you'll always get an answer.
I think that's on our show notes anyway, isn't it, Lee? I think yours has been one of the people we've had on there ever since the start, I believe, isn't it, Lee?
Yeah. I was just trying to see whether.
Sorry.
It's all right, Kevin. I was just trying to see whether I was reading something today, and it said, it's very important to say it's not all men. Of course, it's not all men. We understand that. We've got loving husbands, brothers, sons, but there are men out there who want to do that. And it said, it's not all men, but there's enough men to keep us in a constant state of fear. 1 in 3 women are assaulted by a man in a lifetime. And it said, yeah, so, I mean, that freaked me out a little bit. And it is true, and the amount of different forms of violence, we get older women coming to us as well. They've lived all their life married to the same man. They've had their children with them. And, they get to their 70s and they think, you know what, I've had enough. And even at that age, give us a ring, we'll get you through.
Because I think
the figures are just scary, aren't they? It's absolutely terrifying. As I say, as a dad, 2 sisters, my mum, and I just think to that. So potentially it's happened to one of those.
Yeah.
In just my family. You think that's just it's crazy. And what's society done, or what are men doing to be brought up like this? Because it doesn't even cross my mind, but to be done at that kind of rate, it's happening a lot more often, and there's a lot more people out there that are bad and are doing it. It's scary.
Yes. Yeah. And the thing is, Black Country Women's Aid, I'm the fundraiser there, so it's my job to get the money in. So I get calls all day from our support workers. Today I had one, because we've also got a homeless women service as well. So our staff will literally go on the street and talk to these homeless women. It's called the Willow Project. Again, hopefully this will keep going, but it is funding. But I got a call from somebody from that service today saying, Deb, we've managed to get this lovely young girl off the streets, only 20. We've got her a place to live, just a small flat, but she's got nothing. So, I mean, because I've been there nearly 4 years now, I've got great contacts where I can ring up and say, are you thinking of having any new curtains? Before the pandemic, I could put it on Facebook and say, if you're having a new sofa, please give us a call. We've got, a family that haven't got anything, because when they leave refuge, they do get grants, but they can't buy everything with it. So it's like, well, shall I have television, a sofa and beds, but then I can't have a washing machine? So there's all these different things to think of. So I have to do the fundraising for all of the services. So I work with local communities. If you've got a pub, you can have a darts match, you can have a pools night. Anybody can do a fundraiser. And then I work with corporates like the West Bromwich Building Society. When I worked with them, they were fabulous. They chose us as their charity of the year. And they really did take a passion to find out about each one of our services. And they came in and seen what we'd done. And they were fabulous to work with. And I just wondered if I could possibly show you a little appeal that we're running at the moment. And it's all about when a family leaves refuge, and, we've got them through the trauma, we've built the relationships, they've got the key now for their new council flat or council house, whatever we've got for them. And it's all about that. And I just thought it'd be really nice time to just show you this. It's only on for a couple of minutes.
Brilliant.
And I'll have a quick sip of wine.
Today has been a challenge. I could do with a cup of tea right now.
My money won't stretch to buy food, nappies and baby clothes.
I wish I could block the light for her, but I had to prioritise her bed before curtains.
I can't make it to counselling today. We just moved from refuge and Mum doesn't have enough money for the bus fare.
Will there be? And I think, when you say like your bus fare, 50p or a pound, people think 50p a pound is nothing. But if you haven't got it, that 50p might as well be 50 quid. If you haven't got it, you haven't got it.
And also the idea is, Kev, because we have these sort of things all the time, we're trying to encourage people to give 50 pence a week on a regular basis. So if you click our link, say £2 a month, that steady money that's coming in, we'll always have money to give that kid to buy him a bus pass. We'll be able to offer to buy a bed, bedding, pots and pans, all the things they need. So we do have people who, make a donation. But if we can get this word around, just 50 pence a week, £2 a month, we can really help these families to really start again. Even in refuge, they don't have laptops and, all these sorts of things. And if you all went home tonight, you hadn't got your laptops or your tablets, a lot of people would be like, really, oh God, lost without those sort of things. So that's why it's important. And that we launched this 50 pence a week thing for International Women's Day. And I think Lee will be able to show you just a picture that we started using about this 50p. And the reason we based it on 50p is, people are struggling at the moment themselves with money. People are losing jobs and, in terrible crisis. And that's why we based it around 50 pence. So if anybody can share this, it's on our Facebook, it's on Twitter, it's on our website. That would really help us. So from tonight, if you can do just that, spread the word for us, you'll be possibly saving a life.
Well, with those stats you've given us today, the slavery, the stalking, the domestic, and the child abuse. Blooming heck, it's enough to make you have a belly full, isn't it?
I know. And the thing is, we can really change lives just by giving 50 pence a week. We really can. We can do so much good with that. You won't believe the amount of good that we can do. It really will change their lives. And the other campaign we have running at the moment, because of the pandemic and all these lock-ins, we've had all these women and children. Obviously, there's been men locked in as well, horrendous, the same. But when they're locked in and they can't escape, and, that's the perfect time for the abuser to really take control and really get stuck in. And we know after each lockdown, our figures go up. It was reported all over the news, domestic violence, sexual abuse, rape's all gone up about 30%, horrendous. So what we decided was, we've already got children that we're working with for this and young people. So what we decided to do, they've all been trapped in these houses. We want to run outdoor therapy for them, get them into, a bit of the wildness, a bit of a jungle type, So what we do is we bring together, say, a group of 10-year-olds. So immediately they all know that they've been through, say, for instance, rape. So they can sort of gel with these other kids, and we get them out into this wilderness environment, and they're just going to do things like build a shed together, start a fire together, and then they'll start to open up, and that's when we can really start to help them. I posted that out on Facebook as well, just to give you an idea of cost. It costs £1,000 to get 10 children on this for a day. We know that overnights and weekends one are really good, but it's all down to money. But if I can just show you that slide as well. I've done quite well on this. I've raised about £4,000 so far, but we've got a lot of sessions and we've got a lot of children that need this.
And you're doing such a wonderful job, honestly, from the bottom of my heart. So I phone you up for advice sometimes, don't I? And you've been remarkable. And, you know, I just want to say thank you to everyone out there, to you and your organisation, because without people like you, God knows where these poor buggers would be.
Oh, well, it's not me. I mean, I feel for our support workers, especially the ones that are working with the children that have, you know, go home to violence every night, experience rape. They just do the most wonderful job in the world, I think, to pull them through. And then all our staff that work in refuge and all the different services, they really are talented, lovely people. And the other thing is, a lot of us have been through it ourselves in some way. And a lot, even like women that have gone to refuge, that have stayed in refuge, and they go back into education and they'll go to university, and they might qualify as what's known as a CHISVA, which is a Children's Independent Sexual Violence Advocate. And then they come back and work for us. So we can see all the successes as well. So from all the doom and gloom, you know, there's always hope. And we have women get back in touch with us that have now got their own businesses and nursing homes, and they go, right, time to give something back. And they really do give back. So, you know, that's the lovely part.
We do have a...
I was going to say, have you got any comments? You read my mind.
I've been putting the comments up as we've been going along. It's really nice comments out there, and I hope people who are listening do donate. But we do have a question I'll bring up now. So this is from Gemma Hawksworth. So does Women's Aid help women who are worried about their perpetrators coming back to find them years later, and vice versa?
Yeah. From the moment you make that call to us, we work on that problem that's immediate, right there, right now, whether you go to refuge or you don't go to refuge. And you can come back to us at any time. You just message us, email us or phone us. And obviously we do close cases because there's so many new cases coming in all the time. But we'll always be there for you, always.
Debbie, could you read the nice comments? Did you see them coming on the screen?
Oh, I didn't know. I can't see any comments.
Could you read some out, Lee, if you don't mind? Because I think it's lovely to give credit where credit's due.
It's a lot. It sounds amazing, Deb. There's a few that have actually experienced stalking who've commented. I won't read them all out, Kev, to be quite honest. No. I think we look back over them. But yeah, it's absolutely fantastic.
I'm not the great technical person, but I couldn't see because sometimes there's a button called chat, but I can't see that.
You don't worry about it. We can send it all over to you after.
Yeah, but if anybody, even if you've got a friend or you hear terrible noises coming from a house, try not to ignore it. Try and think, you know, how can you help that person? Because we've had people see our poster in like a washroom of a nightclub, and they've just looked at it and thought, you know what, I can't take any more. And instead of going back out, they've left and they've called our number. And I know it's a frightening thing, and you feel ashamed. I did when I first, I wouldn't tell anybody. I was so, oh God, I felt so awful, and mine was emotional abuse. And I couldn't go to any of my families because every time I tried to go to a family member to escape, the trouble would just be brought there, windows smashed. I was stuck, and it's all of those horrible things. So eventually I did go into refuge, and I've got 3 kids. It was a struggle to begin with, but I've got 3 of the most loveliest children in the world. They're magical, and that's the best part. So I'd urge anybody who needs help, pick the phone up, get in touch. We will look after you. I mean, some women, if they're in like really high, what we call high risk, so if they're involved with, say, a gang member or something really dreadful like that, they won't always be able to stay in one of our refuges. If it's real high risk, they will have to go to another refuge, for pure safety. I mean, I can remember when I'd moved out of refuge and I'd set up home again. He found me because my kids were at Catholic school, and he just went round every single Catholic school until he seen the kids walking out. So, it's really frightening, but there's that much support out there now. It's really worth just picking up the phone and asking for help. You don't take anything further. If you just want a conversation, that's fine. We'll do anything that you want us to do. And in terms of men, there really isn't a lot of support out there for men. It's dreadful, really. But there is a charity called Mankind who do great things for any man in that situation or struggling or anything like that. And then, of course, the big national charity called Refuge, they will help as well. But for any man suffering anything, give us a call and we will help you. We did have, I remember one man coming in, because they're called Cedar Centres, so our offices are called Cedar Centres, and we have one in Walsall inside the Rock Church, we have one in the Jewellery Quarter, and we have our head office is in West Bromwich on Victoria Street, just off the High Street, and we've got an office in Dudley as well. We do work in Wolverhampton, but we haven't got an office there. So, people can literally just walk in, with their children and say, they can phone, text, they can do anything they want. And I remember the one day a man came in, lovely, tall gentleman, very mannerable, and he said, "It's not for me." And we said, "That's fine." Brought him into a room on his own. And it wasn't actually for him, it was for his brother. And his wife had got him totally under total control. She was burning him and everything, tipping hot water on him, giving him a terrible life. And he wouldn't tell on her. And he was too frightened to leave because she said she would harm herself, call the police and have him done for domestic violence. And then she also said she would kill the children if ever he told. So what we done with him, the same as what we would do with a woman, was we created an escape plan for him. So we set it all up and we helped him when she was out, and we knew she was out and it was just him with the kids. We got him and the children out, put them into a safe house, one of our houses. And we done exactly the same for him that we done for the woman. And at least it stopped her being able to blame him and ring the police, harm herself. And, and he's doing really, really well now. And she is getting psychiatric help. So we do help men. So I do want you all to know that, we're there for you.
And I think what you've said before, and I always say it on here, it takes courage to ask for help, but it also takes courage to accept the help.
Yes, that's true. Very true.
But the help is out there, so take it. Sorry, Lee.
So Robert Horton has said that he wants to donate. So I want to donate to Debbie on a monthly basis. So Debbie, once again, can you let people know how they do that?
Oh, okay. Well, you know that advert that you put up on screen. It's like a link. It's just a link. I
actually have your other one as well, so I'll put that up there now. And if you look at the bottom, there is virginmoneygiving.com. Is that the one?
Yeah, that one is, but that's for our outdoor appeal for the kids therapy. The other one, it doesn't matter which one you do it to, but on this one, the 50p challenge, you can find us on our website, on Facebook, or I can, I think you've got the link, so you could possibly send it all out to everybody after. But it's just as simple. You click on the link and it brings up a screen. I done it. And I just put £2 a month. There's all different monies. And I said I didn't want it set out like that because it goes £5, £10, £20. And I said, I don't want it like that. I want it as £2. But you cannot change the websites of people that set up the links like Virgin. You can't put £2, but it does say other. So you just click other and put £2 in, and that's it. It's done.
And as you said, that £2 can go a long way. And really, what can you buy for £2 nowadays? That £2. could really help someone, couldn't it?
It really does. A set of mugs, a set of cutlery,
Yeah.
you know, money towards curtains, bit of paint on the walls, because they're going, there's all these grant situations have gone. You know, they need floor covering, nice pair of curtains, you know, all of those things. Honestly, it makes a massive difference.
Well, Debbie, it has been absolutely wonderful having you on tonight.
Thank you. It's lovely to join you.
Before I ask you for your quote, is there anything else you'd like to just say and push out there?
Just, you know, spread the word. If you think somebody, you know, needs help, you know, do your best to try and sort of, I know it's a hard thing to talk about or approach somebody about, but just a friendly knock on the door. I'm always here if ever you need me, you know, and point them in our direction.
Lee, anything you want to say, bruv?
Just thank you for the work you do. It's absolutely fantastic. Usually at this point we're plugging our hoodies and whatnot for sale, but I think we'll change it this week and say if you want to donate to anything, go over to this and go and donate. Yeah, it really does make a difference.
Thank you very much.
Because with them stats, I know it's not me sick, and you, Lee.
Yeah, it's as I say, you know, sisters, daughters, mothers, and it's just crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But we've all got to talk about it to change it, and we've all got to action to change it. So I hope everyone listening out there, they do. They look at their sons that they're bringing up, or they look at their husbands and make a change.
Yes.
So Debbie, as I'm going to ask you the same question, I'll ask everyone: have you got any quotes or sayings that's helped you get through life, or is there a saying that the Black Country Women's Aid say?
Oh my God. Well, I'm from an Irish background, and my nan always said, God bless and may the wind be always behind you. But in terms of Black Country Women's Aid, it's just that we believe you. So many women that have gone through rape, and men, and they're not believed. We will believe you, we'll care for you, we'll support you, and, you know, we'll do our best to get you through and help you to get back out there. And they're such lovely people to me. And, you know, like I said before, you know, it's not all men are bad. I've got lovely uncles, sons, everything. We know that. And, you know, it's about trying to enjoy your life again. And, you know, there is light at the end of the tunnel.
Once again, thank you. So
and guys, I think, Kev, I think before you go there, I think we're going to end, instead of ending on our outro, we'll end on the Big 50p challenge video in the hope that more people will donate.
Oh, thank you.
So do we talk next time? Take care of yourselves and each other. Please donate to Orbit.
Today has been a challenge. I could do with a cup of tea right now.
My money won't stretch to buy food, nappies and baby clothes.
I wish I could block the light for her, but I had to prioritise her bed before curtains.
I can't make it to counselling today. We just moved from refuge and Mum doesn't have enough money for the bus fare.